Welcome to the Reclaim Leader podcast. I'm Jason Tucker.
And I'm Jesse Skiffington.
We're two pastors in the trenches who are passionate about church health for greater gospel impact.
We share the ups and downs of ministry, strategies that worked for us,
and some that didn't.
Best practices and practical tools for church leadership.
The goal, to help all of our churches flourish. Let's get started.
See another sunrise, sing a little song.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reclaim Leader podcast. Jesse, it's good to be back. And we batch record these things because just like all other pastors, we've got vacations and we've got other busyness and reasons why we're kind of all over the place.
Right.
So for us in real time, it's been a couple of weeks. It's good to see you, buddy.
It's good to see you too. And right before we hit record, we immediately launch into all the things challenges we're facing and all the things, we're just still in the trenches, man, making ministry go. So anyway, good to be back with you and good to welcome our guests on and welcome those that are listening and just a chance to talk shop and think about where we're going this fall and some things that can make our ministry more effective.
Yeah, I love connecting with pastors, and we've had a lot of great conversations and connecting with folks who are brand new to the podcast. First of all, welcome. It's always great to have new listeners, and we hope that this is our beating heart is that we will just provide helpful stuff for you. And if it's not helpful, that it will spark an idea that's helpful. Right?
That's right.
Because we're all just like kind of just trying to figure it out. There's some things we have dialed in, but a lot of other things we don't, or they're constantly changing. And that's right. A little bit of the beating heart today. We're following up last week's episode. Sort of like, how do you start preparing for the fall or, planning for the fall? And this is more of a detailed approach to what my church does every single year around this time as we're looking at what we're trying to do in the fall. Now, you may be in a church where you don't have a staff. It's you and maybe a part-time admin or custodian or maybe you do. You maybe have a couple of staff members, but honestly, this works. And if you're our brand of Presbyterian, you work with elders. I mean, it works with elders to go through these things. In fact, it's a really great exercise to go through these 5 strategic keys. And the goal is, how do we help our church engage people in the life of the church more? And that's one of the questions I get all the time. The number one question I get is, how do we attract young families? And the second one I get is, how do we keep them, right? How do we get them to engage
That's right.
in what we're doing? So I think engagement, again, it's all about discipleship. And I know this time of year, outreach.com starts promoting their Back to Church Sunday. I don't know, Jesse, did you ever do that? The Back to Church Sunday?
Yeah, we do our own version of it. We call it fall kickoff. And I don't remember when we came up with it. I'm sure a million churches use that same terminology. And so it's kind of our September, we talk about the locker room for the sake of the field and getting out in the, all that kind of stuff we launch into the fall with. But what about you guys? Are you doing Back to Church Sunday?
We don't usually do that. For us, the rhythm of our culture here is people aren't really back to anything in the beginning of September. It's people are just figuring out their lives. So I always do a sermon series end of August about how do you get ready for the madness of the coming weeks. And
re-entry,
exactly. How do you prioritize your time with God? How do you double down on what matters most and make sure you have that in your head before your calendar gets crazy? So
that's right.
But
it's a good time to be strategic, right? What are you going to do with your September, and what's the rhythm for your people? In some parts of the country, kids are back in school at the beginning, toward the beginning of August. And so maybe it functions different places.
Yeah. The idea is the people in your church and the people in my church, this time of year, they're ready to get back into a new routine.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out what that routine's going to be. They're figuring out kids' schedules. I mean, my gosh, my wife and I haven't even sat down yet to compare calendars, but we each transferred into our new calendars, which is very therapeutic for me, actually. I feel like I've got more a hand on what's coming up, but oh my gosh, the schedules, and just trying to figure out what are we going to do and where are we going to fit it in. I think for us as pastors, how do we lean into this in such a way that we can help people prioritize God and engage in what matters most, in their, engagement in the life of the church in the midst of
Yeah, you got, how do you live a real faith in a real world and not just, I don't know, it's tricky. So, I mean, at our house, I'm like, do we need a giant whiteboard with like everybody's name and then we just list all the 100 things underneath it? And, I think it is helpful when we remember how busy we are with just life, and it gives us a little bit more understanding with how do we help meet people where they are and engage with them where they are, and in realistic and helpful ways, and not sort of overburdening or guilting or any of those kinds of things.
Yeah. And one thing and this is even part of the 5 things, that one of the things I've been really thinking a lot about over the last year is making sure that I don't have any unnecessary meetings with volunteers.
Yeah.
That's the thing I'm trying to call out is
don't waste people's time.
I don't want to waste people's precious time, because then they get it in their heads that it's a waste of time to participate in the life of the church.
That's right. Yeah.
And,
or they go, you know what? I don't need to be there for that training meeting because they didn't really do anything.
Right. Last time they didn't really.
It kind of builds a negative momentum of, it's already kind of, getting people there is already a trick. So then if you can make the most of that time or find, anyway. So I think that's spot on. You just want to be careful with that.
So how do we do it as a church, and how can this perhaps help you, pastor, out there as you're trying to figure out what are the strategic keys to get people to engage more? So this is our process that we talk about. And the first one really is the overarching framework for the whole process. And that is, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago, it's just kind of a funny way of saying it. Everything is Kung Fu.
Yeah.
So, it was from that, the most recent Karate Kid Legends movie, which wasn't bad. I don't know if you saw it. It wasn't bad. And there's a little cameo. I'm not going to say who, but anyway, in the movie, the main character is trying to teach somebody Kung Fu. And he says, the first thing you have to understand is everything's Kung Fu.
Right.
Making pizza is Kung Fu. Walking to work is Kung Fu. The way that you live your life. And the idea in the framework that I think is important to understand as you're looking at the fall is everything is discipleship. Everything. It's not just a program. You know this, Pastor. You've had lots of classes on this. You've heard lots of articles about it. You believe it yourself. You teach it yourself. But here's a reminder. It's not a program. It's not just small groups. I know small groups are a really great tool, but that's not the end all be all of discipleship. It's a way of life. It's everything. I mean, I always think about this summer, we logged a lot of miles in the car with the kids to various camps and things. And we always talk about riding in the car with my teenagers is the best discipleship time I have with them, because they show up in a different way of being willing to talk in the in-between the destination that they're looking forward to is when discipleship happens. And I think in a way, discipleship is, how do you and I, Jesse, how do we show up for our staff every day? How do we show up for the people in the congregation, for volunteers, for somebody's first Sunday, for whatever it is? How are we present with them and not thinking about the 4 other things that lay ahead of us that day? And how do we talk about God? How do we talk about God in front of other people? How do we talk about one another in front of one another? I think this is all discipleship. It's like everything you do as a church should have one goal, in my opinion. And that is, how do we make disciples who make disciples? Driving the car isn't just about steering or using the brakes or checking your mirrors. It's all of it. And so I think you need a framework that everything you do as a church fits into. And that's discipleship. And so, whatever you choose to use, we talked about this a lot, so I won't want to belabor the point, but our framework was straight up ripped off from North Point. I ripped off. I don't know. That's kind of, they gave it away as a way of thinking about it. And then we adapted it for our own needs. And that's just treating the church as a home, what it would look like to invite people into your home and to sort of into different layers of intimacy. And you sort of end up in the kitchen where that's where all the family hangs out. And this is a tool that helps us understand discipleship as all of it. It's the whole thing. It's our outreach. It's our fellowship. It's our, helping people grow closer, all of that. So how do you guys have this kind of regular conversation about everything's Kung Fu, if you will?
Yeah, yeah. We couple years ago, or it's been a number of years ago now. We had been using the purpose-driven model for a long time at Marine View, which was really great. It's a good organizational model, but discipleship was one aspect of the ministry of the church. It was, I think, worship, fellowship, discipleship, outreach was kind of the four main categories or whatever. And we got to a point where we're saying, well, that's good. There's a focus there, and all those things are part of the Christian life, but really discipleship is the thing that goes over the top of all of it. And so, yeah, just kind of reworking that mentality where we're saying everything we're doing across the life of the church, even from the most ordinary of things, working on our facilities, all of it is discipleship in some way, or creating an environment in which discipleship can happen. So, yeah, so our framework was similar to that, and I like the pivot for it toward home versus like a sales funnel of how can we get the people into the church and then into membership,
giving
and
units,
yeah, all that kind. I mean, like that's maybe whatever. I mean, maybe it functions sort of like that, but there's a better vision connected to the purpose of the church, to be a family, to be a place of belonging and connection for people. So yeah, so getting people from outside in our community into the life of the church, invested in a growing faith, and then hopefully going back into the world and bringing their friends to be a part of that too, and kind of going through that process. And so seeing everything as an opportunity to facilitate discipleship, growing faith for the sake of the mission is, yeah, that's what it should be about. And so it's easy though, and we're going to talk about this, for us to get into a place where we're just doing the things that we do because that's what we do, and we forget the purpose behind those things, or what they're there for, what the intended goal is, or we forget how they connect in with that discipleship framework of that kind of goes over the top of everything.
Yeah. And so that's the first strategic key, is to make sure that you have a framework. Mm-hmm. and to understanding everything that you do as a church, because it should be the sort of thing where your discipleship framework should contain everything: giving, service, fellowship, teaching. Everything is all part of the overall framework of what you're trying to accomplish. This gives you great clarity. And when you have clarity, you're able to be strategic about what you're trying to do, and you're able to prioritize what you feel as a leadership team, what you feel the needs are. You know, you may look at your calendar of events, which we're going to get to next. You may look at your calendar of events and be like, listen, we've got 4 fellowship events and only 1 outreach event. It feels a little imbalanced. So let's change one of those and at least have 2 and 3 and figure out how it works within the rhythm of the church. But you never do that if you're just going from event to event and never asking questions about it, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's number 2. The second strategic key, once you have your framework, is honestly what we do is we put our discipleship framework, we write it on a whiteboard, and then we start plugging in what are the events that we do between September and December. And let's plug them into where they fit in within the chart, if you will. And this tells us what sort of events they are. And so we write all that in, we fill all that in, and then we start asking questions like, okay, are these events that we have in for this year, do they still make sense for what's going on in the life of the church? Or are we just doing it because that's what we always do between September and December?
Yeah.
And that's a trickier question.
That's a hard one, Jason.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially if there's some events you love on the chopping block.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the things that give you juice as a...
Well, and the longer you're around, the more likely that is to be, right? When you're brand new into the role, you're like, yeah, put them all on the chopping block. What do I care?
Yeah.
But now all the ones that are on the chopping block, we had a hand in helping create. So it makes it a little harder, right? Yeah.
And this is the idea that, and again, we talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
That events are great and they can be great, but pathways are better. And that's the difference between seeing the events you do, you know, as a church as disparate activities or seasonal things that people look forward to, as opposed to strategic steps. In other words, when you see on the whiteboard within your framework all the events, I think it's important just to ask a few questions. Questions like, what do we hope people will do as a result of these events? Or what step do we hope they'll take after X event? And if you write all these events down between now and New Year's Eve, let's say, get a little evaluation going. And we have an evaluation tool that we'll give you too. And it's like, let's take a look at each event. What's the energy level around it? One of my favorite things that we talk about, because it's so true, it comes up surprisingly so often, is are we manufacturing energy for this thing, or does it have a life of its own?
Right.
And if the answer is we're manufacturing energy, you have to ask real hard, then who is it really for?
Right.
If nobody wants to do it, why are we doing it? I think is a great question.
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
And then are we going to do the event the same? Or are we going to do it different than we've done before?
Yeah.
Who is the event for? Again, if we've got 6 events on the calendar and they're all for people in their 70s and 80s, we probably need to think about, okay, well, what are we doing for some of the younger generations? There seems to be a little bit of an imbalance there. Or what are we missing? I think it's a good question. So is to look at and be like, okay, we got all that stuff. What are we missing?
Yeah.
And again, I love these questions because it gets you and your team to work on it together. You're not just dictating, this is what I think we're missing, and this is it's, hey, everybody, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And so you guys are thinking in terms of things that are kind of fellowship based for the community of Tower Hill, and then thinking, how can we reach our neighbors and invite them in some way? And as you're kind of working through that, do you guys evaluate that and then kind of stagger events and kind of plug them in? Or how does that kind of on a really practical level, how do you decide which type of event is going to be the event for that time and space?
Yeah. So it happens very organically, but we have a process that guides it. So we intentionally, on a regular basis, it's usually once a quarter, we'll ask these questions. And it usually starts off with a question, something like, what do you feel God's bringing to the surface right now in our church? What's the big need that it seems like people have? Now, a year ago at this time, we would say it feels like we need more, something beyond small groups. We need more sort of intentional relational discipleship. And so how do we cultivate that more? And that spawned new men's and women's events that we had never done before, and a new women's group that really exploded. It was a huge need that we had, and we had a whole group of women decide to do the Bible in a year together on the app.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I cannot believe the spiritual impact this has had on a huge number of women in the church. And that doesn't even sound like a revolutionary idea, but it's what came up as we ask, what's God kind of bringing up? And then usually we can identify a couple of things that we feel like God's doing. And then we say, okay, between now and, whenever, and in this case, between now and Christmas, how do we lean into that thing that seems to be bubbling up? This year we changed our whole event. We changed a lot of our event schedule. And part of it is we looked at the calendar. We're like, we're starting new worship times and everything else. Doing this event here doesn't make any sense. And then we actually said, let's not do that event. And it's a yearly event. We always do. And I said, well, let's tweak the second event to include some of that stuff. Okay, great. That makes a lot more sense, right?
That's it. Yeah. We had a similar situation. We typically have done a kind of an end of summer bash of some kind offsite, maybe go to a pool and a barbecue and just like whoever wants to come and hang out and wrap up summer. And we were getting into July and nobody had asked about it. Nobody was talking about it. Nobody was wondering when it's going to happen. And we were like, maybe it's okay to be done. And so we're not doing it. And nobody has seemed to really be bothered by that fact. And it was kind of like, okay, it wasn't a need that existed. It's something that we enjoyed while it lasted. So really just kind of paying attention and kind of taking the temperature, I think sometimes helps. So what was important about that was lots of connections, lots of kind of celebrating the end of summer and launching into the new year. So we're just going to kind of move that into our September celebration and trying to include some of those connection elements and opportunities just to catch up with people we haven't seen in a while. And that's one of our kind of more inward focused, fellowship events. Great to have new people come to as well. But you kind of evaluate as you go and go, is this still serving its purpose? And it's kind of nice when one of those big events kind of cancels itself, I suppose, because people just aren't interested.
Yeah. But I think sometimes, Jesse, and I know I've had this happen too.
Yeah.
It's happened under my watch for sure.
Yeah.
And that is we're just on autopilot with stuff.
Yeah. For sure.
And it's like, I don't even want to take the mental energy it takes to consider whether or not we should be doing this thing because I have other battle. And listen, you might be in a season like that.
Yeah.
It's okay. But I think this helps you, I think, increase your engagement by getting rid of the stuff that maybe isn't as effective as it could be or should be.
Yeah. Yep. I love
it. Okay. So number 3, this is something we talk about a lot in different ways, but I often get overwhelmed with the amount of work that needs to be done.
Yeah, that's right.
So when I think about how we doing more relational discipleship, for example, I think, oh my gosh, where do I even start? There's all these people that want to meet with me and I can't invest in the same way in everybody. And I just get a little bit overwhelmed. And I think it's important maybe to simplify it. I find it helps when I simplify it. It's sort of like losing weight. Anybody who's ever tried to lose weight and then maybe you had a lot of weight to lose, it's a very daunting task to look at the big number that you're trying to lose and to feel like you can do it. It's too much. So what do? You start with your next meal and you just make sure, hey, let me just dial in or lock in, as my kids say, for this next meal. And then the next meal. And I feel like it's the same with relational discipleship as a pastor is if I'm too overwhelmed, I may end up doing nothing. And I don't want to do that. So I like I call it the 1-1-1 strategy. It just helps me remember it. And it's who's one person that I feel like God's put on my heart that I can invite to coffee. And let me set up that meeting. And usually, like, I don't put a huge time frame. I'm just like, in the next month. Yeah. Who's one person? Now, I meet with more than one person a month, of course, but who's one person God's put on my heart that I just, sometimes you get that thought and it just kind of rolls away because you're busy.
Yeah.
So I make sure, okay, well, let's schedule it. And then I think of what's one new, maybe small group or learning opportunity that we can focus on this fall that I could help lead perhaps. Don't have to do everything, but what's one thing that seems to be a plug in one of the gaps that we have? And then let me schedule out, and I love to pre-schedule my time. So what's one day this month I'm just going to spend doing nothing, like I'm not going to be in the office. I'm just going to be visiting people and being relational and trying to lean into that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like reading the Bible a year. If you make too big of a promise, it's too easy to break, and then it's too easy to give up. Yeah. So if you start with 1-1-1 within 30 days, I think it gives you a shot of developing a rhythm in the midst of your busyness.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's right on. And I think sometimes I'll use the phrase "do for one what I wish I could do for everyone." I think it's a World Vision saying, I think maybe not quite sure where it came from, but kind of that same idea. I mean, especially if you're leading and there's a lot of people, you have to make decisions. You can't be there for everyone. And you have to trust that those relationships are happening in other places in healthy ways too, because of the environments that we've created. So yeah, following those threads. And I like your 1-1-1 model. I think that's a good way to begin. And, if you feel frustrated or with yourself about not doing more of that, just start somewhere. Start with one person this month and take it from there and start to develop that habit. I used to carry around a card in my pocket. I need to probably get back to this, but I would write down on a Sunday morning because it's hard to remember everybody all the time. But I would write down the names of 3 people to either pray for that week or to invite to coffee sometime soon. And it was just a way for me to keep my eyes and my heart open to who is it that needs just a little bit of a touch point with their pastor, or maybe someone who's new would be good to just kind of welcome and connect with. So I haven't carried that index card around in a while, but so maybe I need to get back to that.
But this is a reminder, even as we're talking about this episode, I'm reminded of all these things to make sure that I'm doing. I mean, it's just, this is why we do this podcast.
That's right.
Is so that
we got to talk ourselves back into doing
exactly right. So we can just have it front of mind because it's so easy to just let it slide. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
The next two I'm just going to cover sort of quickly because I want to invite everyone. I'm going to do a master class on these 5 things in a couple of weeks. If you're listening in real time, September 15th. I'm going to go through and give you some downloads, going to give you the free discipleship download, the framework download that we use. We're going to talk about how do you leverage your events for greater engagement? How do you help your church reach new people and retain people and mobilizing your congregation to evangelize around the holidays? So we're going to talk about all that. So the way that you, before I go into 4 and 5, the way that you sign up for that is, and if you're watching this on our video on YouTube, you'll see at the bottom of the screen, it says reclaimleader.com/fall forward. Yeah. And if you click on that link, then you sign up for the masterclass and you'll get an email with all the links and all the downloads and everything else you'll need when the time comes. But just thought that it would be a good resource to do a deep dive in and to show you a little more of what we do rather than what we can cover in this, 30-minute or so episode. So
sure.
Hope you'll join us for that. Again, it's free. No obligation there. We're not charging anything, but just hopefully giving you some resources as you lean into the fall. Okay, number 4. Again, I'm going to go over these last 2 quickly because we'll cover them in the master class. But number 4 is another way to have a strategy of engagement, and especially engagement in the mission, is to have some sort of invitation challenge to your congregation.
Yeah.
And we use a couple very specific tools. One is we use something called generosity cards at Christmas time. And it's basically, if you pay for someone's food or coffee, you leave a little card, just talks about the gift of Jesus and, wishing people a Merry Christmas. And, but also we talk about a lot in worship. We say, we want this place to have no more empty seats. And not because we want this huge crowd, but because it means you invited somebody to participate in the life of the church. So we talk about it and we just say, I'm kind of make fun of it because I'm just like, just don't be the weird Christian. And everyone's worried about being the weird one.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be weird to invite people. I mean, during fall sports, it comes up. Church comes up. Just be like, and if you ever want to come, we got some great Christmas stuff coming up for your kids. I'm happy to go with you, so you don't have to go by yourself. And
I think it can just be a natural thing. If it comes up in a conversation somehow on a sideline or somewhere, just say, "Yeah, you should come check it out sometime. We'd love to have you." I mean, you don't have to take it any further than that, unless there's they ask more questions or something. I bumped into a guy. We have a bike ministry here where some of our retired engineering types, they fix up bicycles and give them away and send them around the world and stuff. And somebody was dropping off their bike, nobody else was around, and just had a conversation. Somebody's not a church person, and I was like, "You should come hang out with us sometime. I think you'd enjoy meeting the folks." And he's like, it was just meaningful to get an invitation, so who knows what they'll do with it, but encouraging that up front and then creating a culture of invitation around the holidays, especially, I think is a powerful tool. So I know you guys use outreach.com stuff around Christmas time. And so we do a series and we have a postcard, similar kind of thing. And we just encourage our people to not only know what's happening, but also to invite someone to be a part of it with them. And so, the holidays like Tower Hill Christmas or Christmas carols and campfire stuff that we do here, those are good invitation points, low threat, relational environment event, that kind of stuff. So invitation is a powerful tool to help the church be healthy, and it reorients people's hearts outside of themselves towards the mission that God has for someone else's life and his vision. So
absolutely. Yeah. And Suzanne will be happy with the church merch. So she always jokes about, I always tell that phrase is banned, but she uses that anyway. But we have the I Love My Church shirts, and we ask people to wear them. And it's just a conversation starter. And the whole goal is to get people to just be able to talk about church as a conversation starter. So, all right. And then lastly, number 5 is we have a gratitude weekend. We call it, so I was joking, very uncreatively, a Sunday of thanks. It's the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Jason, you crushed it. Your marketing team,
I know, man. Listen,
dialed that up.
We do a pancake breakfast.
Yeah.
And it's sort of giving to the folks in our community, but also it's an opportunity for generosity. So the sermon will lead into generosity, but also often, and we're going to do it again this year, is we'll take a special offering and surprise one of our mission partners with an extra gift. And it's just, again, it's about giving thanks.
That's right.
You would be amazed at how many people talk about that weekend as, hey, that's the reason why we started coming, or that's what really helped me engage in the church. There's this idea that we are people that give outward.
That's right.
And share the generosity.
That's right. We call it Season of Generosity, and we have
that's good. Also creative.
Yeah. Really, really dynamic messaging. But again, it's very clear about what it is. But we want to give potentially an organization impacting gift to somebody, one of our partners, like for them to build a new website, or maybe go towards another vehicle for their mission, or something that goes above and beyond like normal support. And there is something powerful about that for people who want to see their church being generous beyond itself. And we are that already, but it just brings it right front and center. And I think it also helps people feel good about their own stewardship and giving to the church as well. So I think it serves kind of a couple purposes there when we say, hey, let's do something awesome for somebody else.
Yeah. So those are the 5 things that we do, that we think about every single year at this time. This is one of our biggest times of the year to really kind of dial everything in. Again, the Fall Forward Masterclass is happening on September 15th. And you sign up for that. More information, reclaimleader.com/fall forward. And get signed up and get ready to go. Hopefully it is helpful for you as you seek to maximize your engagement between now and Christmas. So listen, thanks for listening, everybody. And anything else you want to kind of sign off with, Jesse?
No, it's good to be back and talking shop. And, there's always things to work on, Jason. And every time we talk, I go, you know what? I think we're doing well in this area. And then I'm like, man, got to get this piece dialed in. And so it's just, leadership in the church takes constant attention and cultivation, and just rooting for all our pastors and church leaders out there. It's hard work. It's challenging. It's beautiful and good, but it can wear you out too. And so just hang in there and praying that God's giving you some fresh energy and excitement for the fall, and that even just thinking about some of these things, it wouldn't be overwhelming, but encouraging to just pick away at some of the things that will make your church healthy and thriving for the sake of the kingdom. So we're grateful for you tuning in. And Jason, thanks for bringing these to our attention, and looking forward to seeing who shows up on the 15th and be a part of that conversation for the masterclass.
Yeah. And so drop us a line if you want to reach out, Jason or Jesse at reclaimleader.com. You can find us on social, mostly active on Instagram. I'm on Twitter because I hate life. No, I'm just kidding. X is kind of a rough place, but I'm on there. If you ever want to find me, but Reclaim Leader on Instagram, I think, is probably your best bet. But DM us, and happy to engage. But again, as we go forward into this fall, we always say ministry is hard. It is so much better when we do it together. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.